Good morning. How's everyone? Is everybody alive out there? I hear it's gotten a little testy so far throughout the course of the morning show, but we've got you for the next 3 hours so we can vent here together back from Cleveland. The results, not ideal. If you are a Tennessee Titans fan, 27-3 is the score that they were defeated by, and honestly didn't feel all that close sitting in the press box. Lucas Panzica back there making it happen. 615-737-1045 is the number. Lucas and I got on the phone last night. My flight home from Cleveland was delayed, so we were planning out the show. And, of course, you are hosting the post-game show, part of the season. You, Brent Doherty, and Kevin Dyson, the good doctor, reacting and taking people's calls on 104.5 The Zone after the game. And you said you went for how long yesterday with Loaded Lines?
We went 3 hours. The game ended earlier than usual. So we were on the air about 3:30 to 6:30 taking calls.
I would agree with that assessment. The game did end earlier than usual.
Yes, game ended before the clock hit zero.
The game was over.
For sure.
with a lot of time left to play. I, for some reason, have a large amount of Cleveland Browns fans in my life. And in that Gamblers Digest group text I've told you about before, they're firing off all kinds of messages because 90% of them are from Cleveland. One of them said, it's the first time as a Browns fan I've never felt threatened in a game by a team. And when you're only scoring drive, we're going to what time are we doing the numbers segment today? Because my cup runneth over with numbers from this game that I have to talk about at some point because I don't want to start the bidding too soon. But the idea that the only scoring drive that the Tennessee Titans had yesterday was -9 in 3 plays is truly an achievement.
And because of a turnover forced by the defense.
Red zone trips matter. Hey, listen to this. Titans the only team to make it to the red zone on the Browns defense. That make you feel any better? Probably not. There are a lot of those things out there today. DHB in the F&M Bank chat. You can always interact. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. DHB on YouTube says, numbers, we had no numbers. There are no numbers. That is correct. Well, there are numbers.
Oh, there are numbers.
There are numbers, kids.
Mike Keith said it well in the Titans radio post game. The stats don't always tell the story. Today, the stats told the story. Or yesterday.
They have had moments, right? Like, New Orleans was a meltdown, but it was a more condensed meltdown. And I'm not going to say that this was a failure at every level because that does Nick Folk a disservice. All he does is make the kicks. When they put him in position to make the kicks, he makes the kicks. So special teams off the hook yesterday. But everything else, man. There were a lot of blowouts around the NFL. A lot of people got made to look foolish in professional football yesterday. The Dallas Cowboys probably having this same conversation on local sports talk radio today, losing to the winless at the time Arizona Cardinals. How do you think it feels to be a Denver Broncos fan? Sean Payton, boy wonder, not anymore. The new boy wonder just hung 70 on you. But what happened yesterday was so disarming to me because it's rare that you see them get just beat up and down at nearly every level. And I'm going to leave special teams out of this for the day. There's no reason really to talk about the special teams other than Kearis Jackson didn't play in the game. But I think that, if you're somebody who's going to do, well, at least we didn't lose by 50 today, that ignores the larger issue. Your football team short-circuited. And that most of you can recite what a Mike Vrabel press conference sounds like after a loss at this point. You could do that with a lot of coaches around the league. But at some point, it has to take hold. Numbers, as we talk about them today, and there's only so many things that you can carry over from one season to the next. But this is one. When you are losers in 9 of your last 10 games, and the answer is got to play better, got to coach better. Lucas, what is the poll that we have. Well, Lucas is back there fielding phone calls. Don't wear Lucas out today. All right, let's not do the Popeye's chicken sandwich worker slumped over on a park bench because she's just had it because you guys can't get enough of the Popeye's chicken sandwich. I'm worried for you today. I really am.
That's not how that works.
What do you mean?
People get to call in.
I'm trying to help you.
I understand. I appreciate it.
Okay.
But people get to call in.
All right. Are you overcompensating after Dan Lust took my side? You're going to overcompensate and go on the side of people right away when you know you're going to hate this the entire day for 3 hours? But you're right. People get to call in today. Losers in 9 of their last 10, and coach better, play better is the theme. Okay, well, the poll is what today? At Buck Rising on X or Twitter.
What do the Titans need more of? Coaching better or playing better?
The answer is both against the Browns. Jeff Simmons, it was weird. And I know Simmons went at Kaharski online and then deleted the tweet about a lack of accountability. And you'll hear from Jeff here in just a little bit. In fact, can we hear from Jeff Simmons, his comments in the locker room after the fact, when he's asked about, what can you do as a defense when the quarterback who just couldn't seem to get right finds a way to get right against you?
We didn't play good. I mean, we got our coach after it's from top down. Everybody in this organization today, we got beat. So we got to come back ready to work.
What were they doing to mitigate the impact that you guys typically have up front, Jeff?
I mean, we was back there. We didn't get them down. I mean, it wasn't that. They were doing a lot of, like the flags here and there. I mean, I don't know. We all have a job, and I guess we all need to do better at that. I just don't agree with a lot of stuff that they was calling. But I mean, at the end of the day, our goal was to stop the run. We did that. We gave up a big couple plays down the field, but at the end of the day, it wasn't. It's like they were just beating our tail up and down the field. We just got to eliminate bad football.
You guys talked all week about Deshaun and being able to extend plays and stuff, and he was able to do that. How frustrating? You had a game plan, obviously. This is what we want to limit, and then they were still able to do that.
Like I said, we was getting back there a couple of times. He broke out of the sacks or what it may be, but we knew he was a strong guy with the ball. He was he gave us a lot of opportunity at the ball. Even with the one he threw back and, running around with the ball loose, we just got to take advantage of bad football. And, we didn't today.
So what he's saying there is we didn't get our tail beat up and down the field, that he didn't agree with the officiating, that he felt the officiating made the advantage look more in favor of the Browns than the defense actually did. And I understand what Jeff is trying to say there. And also, nobody wants to hear about the officiating after the fact, and Jeff knows that. He knows that. And so whatever, there's excuses and there are explanations, and people don't care to discern between the two after a loss. The Tennessee Titans lost a football game 27-3. They had their worst yardage offensive output. I need to stop with the numbers. The problem is there are so many that we have to pick from today, bud.
Yeah, you're doing the whole show here.
No, I'm not doing the whole show. I'm doing the game. Because the idea that this was worse than New Orleans and you all thought that New Orleans was the end of the world, there are so many layers to this that we have 3 hours to address. But I think on the whole, coach better, play better. It's not hitting anymore.
This was worse than New Orleans.
Definitively.
Easily, yeah. New Orleans was very identifiable, right? It was if this happens, if Tannehill hits Chig here, if Tannehill doesn't miss Tajay here, then...
If Tannehill doesn't short circuit.
There were no ifs in this game. That's the problem. There's no ifs that would have led to a Titans win.
Not yesterday. And that I think is the thing that you should be concerned by. Because that's what an elite defense looks like. And the Titans, the best thing that they have at their disposal is that defense's ability to make them special. Health is not something that they can sustain, that anybody can sustain throughout the course of an NFL season. But the thing that you're supposed to do as well as anybody in the league, you got outclassed in. And the quarterback, as I said, who couldn't get right, had his best performance as a Cleveland Brown. Wasn't even close and didn't look that good doing it. So was it worse than New Orleans? Yes. Should you be angry today? Absolutely. And the thing, we're going to try and identify the places that they can improve, but also it's incumbent upon them to do so as well. Losers of 9 of their last 10. That's not something that you typically associate with the Tennessee Titans under this particular coaching administration. 615-737-1045. You got phone calls. We'll get to them. We'll talk about the quarterback situation. We got a laundry list of things to address, so we'll go through them over the course of the next 3 hours. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Tannehill from the shotgun takes the snap. Tannehill in trouble. He's been sacked. And that's going to end the first half. The Titans come away with nothing.
Certainly did, Mike. That's Mike Keith, voice of the Titans. That's the end of the first half. In a game full of bad football plays on both sides of the ball, that one was really, it felt like, the point of no return. Where you have 13 seconds left on the clock and you take your final timeout. Now, you can't hold up in pass protection, but you've moved the ball effectively down the field in that moment. You get the big play to set you up in the red zone. You get the sign of life, right? We talked about Mike Vrabel last week, mentioning that against the Chargers, that Treylon Burks, the completion of 70 yards to Treylon Burks, was the thing that stopped them from, in his words, leaking oil. And the offense started to, whether it's confidence, gain rhythm, be able to get themselves into drives, into plays, and they got that play.
That was a 10-yard, 55-yard drive.
A 10-yard, you mean
or a 10 play,
play?
excuse me. 10-play, 55-yard drive.
And so they get to the point that they need to, and you get the deep pass to Chris Moore for 33 yards to set you up at the 11. And in that process, you end up burning your final timeout with 13 seconds to go. You've got the opportunity for a shot at the end zone, an incompletion, and give yourself enough time to at least put another 3 on the board. Stop leaking oil, because you get the ball back in the second half. You start the second half with the ball, so at least you have the opportunity to go into half with points and come out and get another crack at it. And immediately, Myles Garrett pushes Andre Dillard directly back into the quarterback, who doesn't get rid of the ball in time. They take a sack. The half ends. No points. Zeros on the clock. We'll see you in the second half, boys. And they go 3 and out to start the second half as well.
13-3, the halftime score.
Brother. So here's what doesn't need to happen today, all right? Because this is the tendency, and I don't think it's exclusive to Titans fans. I think this is, indicative of, anything that goes wrong in your life, and you start to voice complaints, some that are relevant, some that are just things that have been eaten at the back of your head, right? But something goes wrong, it gives you the opportunity to bring up an issue that you have that wasn't necessarily the largest issue on the day. Ryan Tannehill missed some opportunities yesterday. Jim Schwartz, the former assistant, former defensive coordinator here, now the defensive coordinator of the Browns, said Derrick Henry's not going to beat me today. The Titans passing game, Ryan Tannehill, the offensive line, the skill position players, they're going to have to beat me today. And they didn't do it. They couldn't. They collectively couldn't do it. Jim Schwartz's defense beat Tim Kelly's offense, beat them down, beat them soundly. But to bring up the idea that this is the time that they need to move on from Ryan Tannehill specifically is an error that I think we're going to hear a lot of. There are loaded lines. We're going to get to them now. But I want to preface this on the front end, that if you're calling today to talk about benching the quarterback, when I'm acknowledging that the quarterback and the passing game were challenged to try and beat the Browns. They couldn't do it. But the idea that Malik Willis would fare better in that situation, that, Will Levis, had he not been inactive and available as the emergency quarterback in that situation, I acknowledge that I would have liked to see Malik Willis earlier in the game. When it's a blowout, get him some reps. It's the only time he's going to get those reps. But we're not doing the bench the quarterback thing today. There's nothing that you could have done. There's nothing that you have, and that speaks to a larger issue. But the circumstance is what it is right now, and I just, the Tannehill thing today, to have the same tired Tannehill conversation when the issues are so much more widespread, when there are larger glaring issues on the board. Not that he's not one, but I feel like that, I don't want to see us spin our wheels today. And it feels like today has the potential to be one of those days.
To be fair, though, I think most people recognize that.
Okay, I hope so.
About this game.
I hope so. I just, we're going to get those calls today, and I'm just prefacing on the front. I wanted to say it on the front end before we do this because, I'm about to unleash the gates of hell.
99
is what I think is sitting on all of the phone lines today.
99% of the reaction of 99% of the bench Tannehill, Malik would have been able to escape the pressure comments yesterday on Titans Talkback were from Twitch user _301.
Yes.
On the
who
FNM
I
Bank
only
chat,
assume
right?
is a bot.
Yeah. Are they a real person? There's no way of knowing. But for the most part, I think that was the mind frame of people reacting yesterday, was that it is a useless argument to act like Ryan Tannehill was problem 1, 2, 3, or 4 yesterday.
Now, here's what I want to distinguish between, because Morgan on YouTube says something that's very interesting to me. Or not interesting, but just another angle of this. I don't know if it's a he or she based on the picture, but I just want something to be exciting. Roll the dice with Willis. Now, if you're calling in to have that conversation, that's fine. It's not a realistic one because they're not. It's week 3, right? As bad as yesterday felt, it's not over. Like, it wasn't over after week 1. It's not over after week 3. And we'll get we got weekly positivity based on the results of the NFL. We'll get to it a little later. But it's not the end of the season. And, by extension, when a team like the Cardinals can beat a team like the Cowboys yesterday and a team like the Titans can get blown out by the Browns, week 3 isn't the end of the season. So, while I acknowledge that I also would be interested in seeing something a little more exciting, and maybe Malik is that. I'm not sure. I don't know. All I have is last year to work off of, really. While I understand why you might feel that way, it's not a realistic solution. And that, I think, is what we're trying to accomplish today, other than, people just being pissed. All right. I don't know. How should I start? Because you know what's sitting there waiting for me when I walked in here today.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Might as well.
Darrington is up first.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to preface by saying that the wildest thing I've ever seen in sports was having a defensive lineman going in motion and causing an offensive team to call a timeout. I have never seen nothing like that in my life. Oh, my gosh. But anywho, as much as I can't stand Ryan Tannehill, it's only 5% of his fault. I blame 88% of this on the former general manager. I mean, what do you expect to have? You got not just one lineman, not just 2, not 3. All of them are terrible. Let's just call it what it is. Terrible. So you just got to play with what you got to play with. Every year can't be, hey, we're going to do it this year. Sometimes there's some years you just got to look in the mirror and say, hey, we need to fix some stuff. And that's that time. You got a brand new GM in here. This is first year. Now, I ain't going to lie. Tim Kelly's second half adjustments, instead of doing some 5-step drops, 7-step drops, how about some quick slants, bubble screens, a little bit more options on court with Tannehill. Maybe something like that. Since they're coming so quick, maybe a few draws up the middle. I mean, just something like that to find a new rhythm. But for the most part, hey, guys, 7-9 this year, 6-11, something like that around down the line. It's okay. I'm going to let you do it. You're the expert, but I promise you, you're going to get some, I don't want to say that word, but you're going to get some dummies who's going to call in there. And they're going to say 17 is the problem. And you know how I feel about him. He wasn't the problem. It was old GM. Now I listen to you, professional. Thanks.
Was that the most nuanced and reasonable opinion that we've ever had? This is why we were right to lead off with him. Always a surprise.
Yeah, I was about to say, Darrington, you always surprise us. It was. That was a very balanced take by Darrington. Measured.
I don't think I've ever said this. We've been doing the radio show almost 3 years now. I think he's spot on. You don't have a competitive roster. You don't have a competitive roster on the offensive line is more importantly, all right? Let's not spread it out to the entirety of the roster. There were a lot of things that didn't look competitive yesterday. Doesn't mean I shouldn't have said that they don't have flatly a competitive roster because they did just beat the Chargers. Again, it's only week 3, but he's spot on. It's not just A.J. Brown that got John fired here. they have been chasing that offensive line rebuild for 4 years. And so that Andre Dillard, who you're going to hear from, and gave one of the more surprising public quotes I've heard in a while. And I just, Andre Dillard's going to be an easy target today. I understand why people are going to be frustrated with him, but I'm going to explain how I feel about the Andre Dillard situation a little later on. And Mike Vrabel, by the way, going to speak at 11:45, so I'm sure he'll be asked questions about the left tackle and the viability of it, because right now he is on track to be worse than Dennis Daly. And those are not words that I think any of us thought we might say, except we were warning you this offseason. It doesn't always get better just because the names are different. And I think this is one of those situations. But week 3,
Well, now hang on.
Wait to see.
Is that an overreaction to say that Andre Dillard's on track to be worse than Dennis Daly? When he got flat out punked yesterday by the best pass rusher in football, but after the first 2 weeks where we talked about the offensive line as good enough.
And him the biggest problem.
And him, sure, the biggest problem, but somewhat growing into the Chargers game, but not. Dennis Daly was wrecking the Titans' game plan, right?
And what did Andre Dillard do yesterday?
That's what he did yesterday. But I do feel like that's an overreaction, saying he's on track to be worse than Dennis Daly when, yes, he bottomed out against the best pass rusher that he's going to face all season.
Lucas.
The whole line did.
Lucas. They don't have a touchdown in 2 of the 3 games this year.
Are we gonna rewrite the history on how bad it was with Dennis Daly?
No, I'm not at all. But
Did we say that about Andre Dillard after week 1 and week 2, that it's going to be as bad as Dennis Daly?
I'm saying he's on track to be. Yes, I can absolutely say that.
No,
absolutely,
right.
That he is on track to be worse.
My question is, were you saying that after the Saints and Chargers game?
No, because they gave up 5 sacks to a defense that had 2.
So you weren't saying that after the Chargers and Saints game about Andre Dillard?
That he was on track to be worse than Dennis Daly.
Right.
That he was a problem, yes. That he was on track to be worse than Dennis Daly, no, because he was not previously.
Okay.
5 additional sacks to a defense that had 2. Ryan Tannehill has been sacked 13 times in 3 games, Lucas. There is nothing wrong with the statement after a performance like that Andre Dillard is not on track to be worse than Dennis Daly. Whether he ends up being worse or not remains to be seen. He has that opportunity to prove himself. And yes, a lot of good offensive linemen, a lot of better offensive linemen, a lot of bad offensive linemen are going to get their lunch ate. Darrington brought up the idea that a defensive end almost drew because they called a timeout, but almost drew a delay of game penalty yesterday. My dude is playing next level chess against you.
I'm not saying the situation's not worse, because Andre Dillard can play slightly better than Dennis Daly, except he's making $29 million. So that would make the situation worse, 100%. But if we weren't saying that about Andre Dillard after week 1 and 2, that, this is going to be worse than Daly, how can we suddenly say after week 3, after, yes, he gets completely obliterated by Myles Garrett, that suddenly he's on track to be worse than Dennis Daly
because
after one game?
Because the information changed from 2 games to a third, and the statistics, the numbers, the pressures, the sacks are trending in a direction that is poor. I don't know that he's going to end up being that kind of a problem all year long. The early returns are poor. That he continues to be. Is he not the biggest problem on the offensive side of the football right now?
Yes.
And listen, I don't doubt that Dennis Daly tried to improve himself. I don't doubt that Andre Dillard is doing the damn best job that he can. The problem is he is out there undermining them. And the problem is it was the same last year. You guys lost your minds when I told you that Dennis Daly was your best available option. Dennis Daly cost you a 5th-round pick. Now, I don't know that the coaching staff was right to leave him in there until week 15 and start week 15 with Dennis Daly before they finally made the change to Dylan Radins. That, I thought, was too slow of a burn before that thing completely, felt like it was going to fall apart week in and week out. As Lucas correctly said, Dennis Daly undermined them all the time. But it's not just the pressures. It's the penalties. They are, again, averaged 3rd and 8. 3rd down and 8 for a second of 3 games. It's insane. They can't live that way.
Is it more likely that if this continues with Dillard, they would move Skoronski out left or play Dylan Radins there? What's more likely of a solution? Or
I think it's Radins
or an unnamed option.
If should they make a change, and I don't know what they will do here because I don't know that he's still not their best option. Like, you like Dillon Radunz because you haven't seen a larger sample size of Dillon Radunz. Doesn't mean that he can't do it, but the coaching staff is clearly signaling that that's not one of their best 5 offensive linemen. Now, you may not trust the coaching staff as of late. You may not trust the offensive line evaluations, but if the criticism today is going to be John Robinson and the offensive line state that devolved over the course of several years, Dillon Radunz is as big a part of that as anybody. Isaiah Wilson is the biggest flaw in the middle of all that. Is Dillon Radunz not second on that list? I think that because that is a discussion worth having, what can be done about the offensive line. I think they would be more likely to have Radunz try at left tackle, the position that he continues to want to play. Basically, every position, they'll play him at every other position but left tackle, it felt like. Because I think Skoronski's their best offensive lineman, and guards are getting paid $20 million plus in the league right now, too. I think to keep the interior pressure off your quarterback, to maintain the integrity of that pocket on the inside, I think, honestly, Skoronski is more valuable inside than he is at tackle. Because then you're talking about potentially messing with 2 spots to try and fix 1. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We'd be happy to have you. About Gil in California.
Hey, Buck, what's going on?
Not much.
Yeah, well, I just want to see. I ain't going to blame Tannehill. I just want to see a sense of urgency from Vrabel. And it's like I don't want the whole season to go with him not fixing the offensive line, like saying it can't be fixed with some adjustments. I'd rather just see, because my thing is you put our second worst offensive lineman at center this year to start, and then you have this other guy who's worse than Dennis Daly, and we have 2 offensive linemen coming back with our rookie and then Fatigue Ferrer. I don't know his name like that, but I just feel we can make some adjustments there and just try to see if we can do better. But I just want to see a sense of urgency, and considering that Ron Carton has he didn't hire Mike Vrabel, I just want to see, him show some urgency, and hopefully we can change it around just to be a all right team, because I don't see us doing anything this year.
Thanks for the call. They do have options. Like, I'm not here to put, perfume on, perfume on Bert. What's something that smells bad? That was mean. I shouldn't have done that.
That was mean.
He doesn't smell bad. I don't know why I do that too. He smells like cigarettes. People don't like the smell of cigarettes. Anyway, perfume on a pig, let's say. They do have
lipstick on a pig.
Lipstick on a pig?
That's the saying.
Why is it lipstick on a pig? Who put the lipstick on the pig?
I don't know.
These are the questions. Let's do some journalism later today. They do have options, right? NPF after week 6, coming back after the bye. Like the offensive line generally. We're going to talk a lot about Dillard. The offensive line generally was overmatched. Like, it was not, Andre Dillard was not the only issue. He was the most glaring issue because he had the most difficult assignment. The most difficult assignment was, of course, Myles Garrett. So we have to put all this within context. How much NPF factors in at left tackle. He played it in college. I don't know if they see him there as a pro. I don't know if it makes sense. We talked about NPF in the preseason. He did play. We didn't feel like the results were overwhelmingly great for the preseason performance. And the thing with the offensive line is this that makes it more difficult, and this is the coaching staff's reticence. Whether it's right or wrong, you can determine your own opinion. But what do the offensive linemen bring up more than anything else? Continuity. Like the ability to play together as a unit as much as humanly possible. That is the thing that they cite most often as a group, no matter what position that you talk to. So I can understand who I'm communicating with, how they communicate, so we can streamline the process, so we can become more efficient as a group. Not 5 individual players, but 1 offensive line. That is the reticence of the coaching staff at its core, right? Now, you can determine whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but why they would be hesitant to move things around is because when you talk to any offensive lineman, former, current, whatever the case may be, time together is the thing that they value most. It's just, have they started the year with the right combination of parts and how long are they willing to let this thing play out? Because last year it took them the better part of 15 weeks. 615-737-1045. So we're not doing Friday Fire on a Monday. How do you want to position to this to the audience?
Oof. I don't know that there is a way.
You just made a face like Sean Payton walking to the podium after Mike McDaniel hung 70 on him. Oof.
Tough day for silver linings.
Well,
we're going to do it anyway.
We're going to do it anyway because some of the stuff in the NFL yesterday, it's enough to make you feel a little better. 615-737-1045 is a number. Let's get to the phones for Lucas gives you a little positivity spin. I saw somebody accuse me of hating the Titans already on the show. I just, we got to talk about a 27-3 loss, kids. It's going to be okay. A little constructive criticism. Apparently, some Browns defenders had some for your offensive line yesterday as well. We'll play those comments for you later on. Ian in Lafayette is next. Oh, he literally dropped off as I went to hit the button.
You sure?
Yeah. I don't think I hung up on him this time. Normally, I know when I hit the wrong button. I don't know if I did. Either way, sorry, Ian. Kyle is in Georgia.
Hello.
Hi.
I just want to do a little quick talk on the Titans. So the offense, my God. What I saw was a game plan where Derrick Henry was just basically turned into a battering ram, and he had no chance. And I look at the game that I want to talk about is the Vikings-Eagles game on Thursday Night Football. The Eagles changed their game plan. They literally went and said, all right, Hurts can't get the ball on the first and second drives. He was not throwing the ball so well. So they're like, you know what, let's just change it up, which Tim Kelly, my God, you got to change up the offense. You got to be willing to throw the ball on quick passes. I know our wide receivers aren't that quick, but you got Spears, who was yelling and screaming. I could see him on the field just constantly being like, what the hell's going on? And, my God, the defense, they got worn the hell out. Those two plays where Deshaun Watson was passing the ball around in the backfield, that wore him out so bad. And other offenses are going to look at that and be like, all right, that's what we got to do against the defense, Titans defense, just wear them down. That's what we're going to do. Well, that's what I got, and have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Kyle. So, I can't speak to Spears calling for the ball on the field. I didn't notice him like actively out there like that, so I don't want to speak out of turn. There were opportunities missed all over the place, and it's not just a Mike Vrabel thing to say coach better, play better. They got soundly outcoached and soundly outplayed. The Browns had better players on defense than did the Titans on offense. The Browns had a better game plan on defense than did the Titans on offense. And, it was evident, glaring. Now, the specifics that he mentioned, there's some things that I understand where he's coming from. There's some stuff I'm not exactly sure what he's referencing, but we can all understand that they were soundly beaten yesterday.
Well, but there's something to that, I think, what he's talking about. In the
changing the game plan?
Or just in the lack of anything quick, anything to just take what's there. Did it not feel like they were either running into a brick wall repeatedly or, 5-step drops with absolutely no opportunity to get the ball downfield? Yeah,
the quick game, there has to be something there that's going to give you a chance to at least establish a rhythm, find some opportunities. Now, there were some passes that I thought like the Burks deep completion down the field. It was late. The game was out of hand, and he needs to make that catch. Honestly, we can talk about that later because there are some drops there with him and Chig that are questionable. But I do think that he is correct in the assessment that to adapt how they're playing offensively to get the ball out of Ryan Tannehill's hands faster, to understand the protection plan that you simply don't have the equipment to hold up against. And I think, I have to think that they do. They all see the same things that we do. These are paid professional coaches. Like, I have to think that they understand and that they know their deficiencies as well, if not better than we do. That's a fair assessment, yes? So when you have Andre Dillard in moments where he just doesn't have help and you're asking him to win on one-on-one and you know that he cannot against Myles Garrett in those moments, then yeah, a 5-step drop is not the thing that Ryan Tannehill is going to benefit the most from. All right. So, Titans lost 27-3. The only thing that I'm going to say to make you feel better today, and I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not twisting the knife intentionally. I'm not doing anything other than that. But here's why it's not the end of the world, because a lot of you are going to treat it like the end of the world today. You're going to want to fire people. You're going to want to bench people. That's fine. You can have that opinion. I'm here to tell you it's only week 3. And it's week 3 in the AFC South. What the hell happened in Jacksonville yesterday? I saw a fullback. I haven't seen the game in its entirety. I know that Calvin Ridley has the dropsies all of a sudden after looking great for a quarter.
For a half.
For a half, rather, in week one.
He had 7 catches in the first half of the Jags season opener. Since then, Calvin Ridley has 6 catches.
The Titans are 1-2 and second place in this godforsaken division because the Colts won yesterday over the Ravens because they have a kicking god all of the sudden. Bert, has anybody checked on Bert? Has anybody talked to Bert today?
Yeah, I was talking to him this morning. Yeah, tough loss for the Ravens.
Self-harm watch for Robert Lee Walsh after his Ravens lost yesterday at the hands of Gardner Minshew. Minshew Mania back.
Yeah, Justin Tucker short on a 61-yard field goal in the final play of regulation, and then Matt Gay just banging in 53-yarders for the Colts to win without Anthony Richardson.
I am astounded by the AFC South year in and year out, truly. That a fullback returned a touchdown yesterday against the Jags in Jacksonville is wild. That C.J. Stroud is on pace to have one of the best starts that a rookie quarterback has ever had. Now, he's healthy. He's out there playing. The other two are not right now. Good context to keep in mind. But C.J. Stroud, S2 scores can suck it. He doesn't care at all about those. He's out there dicing them up. 20-point win on the road for Houston, who, if they can figure out the defense, might be a threat.
They never trailed.
Do I
never
fear
trailed.
Gardner Minshew and C.J. Stroud in the division in ways that none of us thought we thought it'd be Titans and Jags?
And you say if they can figure out the defense was fantastic yesterday.
Consistently. The defense has not been something that they can rely upon.
It was great yesterday. They were up 17-0, never looked back.
So there is your only moment of positivity. Now, there are things that, there are things from the football game that aren't going to be as bad as you thought they were. There was nothing really good to take from a performance like that, again, other than Nick Folk and the AFC South existing. But as you look around, you're not dead, even though sometimes I understand why you might feel like you are. Because that's as deflating a loss. We're not going to do all of the numbers. We're going to do the numbers game coming up next. But again, their worst offensive yardage output in 49 years as a franchise. You're allowed to be pissed about what you saw yesterday.
I feel like a little bit of deja vu early in the season. Like 2022, week 1, you lose a game you should have won, right? You're 1 to 2 plays away from winning the Giants game, just like you're 1 to 2 plays away from winning the Saints game in week 1. And then there is a win sandwiched in between weeks 1 and 3, but you get punked by the Browns on the road. You got destroyed by the Bills on the road in week 2 last year. And just like you said, that Browns fan talking about, I didn't feel threatened at any point in this game. I can't remember the last time I felt that way.
A Browns fan.
That's the exact same type of comment I heard outside of Highmark Stadium in Buffalo after that Monday Night Football game. I was just walking after the game, and I heard a fan saying, man, they don't have nothing, talking about the Titans.
They didn't.
They got nothing. And as they were, jubilant after a 41-7, whatever the final was of that game. The point is, the season wasn't over after week 2 last year when it felt like it was, right? And the Titans were literally a play away from winning the AFC South. But that's not good enough for a lot of people, and that's okay.
It shouldn't be.
Right?
What's
Being
the Mike
alive,
Tomlin quote?
What?
We want them fat and sassy. We want them entertained. We're there to entertain them. If we don't entertain them, they're going to entertain themselves, and they entertain themselves by booing. He said he wanted fans fat and sassy. It made me laugh.
But being alive in the AFC South is an objective fact. Like, the season's not over. You can still play for a home playoff spot throughout the course of the season, but it's okay if that's not good enough for fans.
And also, 1-9 in your last 10 football games as a franchise. All right. So we're going to give you some numbers. Because, as Mike Keith eloquently put it on the broadcast yesterday, as Lucas mentioned earlier in the show, numbers don't always tell the story of the game, but in this particular one, they did. We'll give you some of these numbers coming up next.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. On Sunday, the Titans offense could never get out of the gates and were outgained 341-94 in a 27-3 loss at the Cleveland Browns to drop to 1-2 on the season. Titans had a chance to make it a one-score game right before the half in the red zone, but Ryan Tannehill sacked with Myles Garrett's third sack of the first half.
Tannehill from the shotgun takes the snap. Tannehill in trouble. He's been sacked. And that's going to end the first half.
Mike Heath on the Titans radio call. The Titans ran the ball for just 26 yards on 15 attempts, and Ryan Tannehill sacked in total 5 times. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media at 11:45 from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour on this Monday. Welcome in. Back from Cleveland. Titans lose 27-3. We're taking your phone calls. We are breaking down the game throughout the course of the radio show. We're with you till 1 o'clock. Of course, Blaine and Mickey, 3HL, after that, will do the exact same thing. Difference is at 11:45 today on our show, you'll hear from Mike Vrabel. He will be at the podium. He will be asked many questions with having had the opportunity to have watched the game back on Coach's tape, and we'll probably give a more detailed assessment about the loss, about the different ways that they broke down yesterday when you hear from him at 11:45. So we'll carry that press conference for you. 615-737-1045 is the number. We got people on the lines. We'll get to you here in a second. If you want to jump in, we got a few that are open. But what we're going to do right now is play a little game. The numbers game. A lot of numbers that came out of this specific game. Not your typical numbers. Numbers that when you see them, when you read them, when you scroll by them on your social media feeds, you have nothing to do but stop and stare and say, is that possible? That can't be so. Not in 2023 modern professional football. By the way, there were numbers like that all over the league yesterday. This just happens to be a game that is going to be our science experiment for the remaining 2 hours that we've got today. So where do you want to start, Lucas? You want to go back and forth? You want to snake draft some numbers? Because I know you and I haven't cross-referenced what numbers that we have to bring to the table. I do think that I have some particularly horrifying ones, and I know you might as well.
Let's hear your first one.
You want me to start? How many offensive plays, Lucas, did the Tennessee Titans run yesterday? Can you tell me that off the top of your head?
Oh, in total.
In total. Because, 4 quarters of football went pretty quickly. We talked about this to start the show. The game was over before the game was actually over. But in 4 quarters against the Cleveland Browns, a game that they were really not in, how many offensive plays did the Tennessee Titans run?
I'm going to say, time of possession was pretty low, lower than usual for the Titans. I'll say 64.
The Tennessee Titans yesterday ran 45 offensive plays, okay? But that's not the thing that's going to shock you.
I know the stat you're about to give us.
Do you?
It's bad.
So if I lead with this, am I giving away my hand? Because this is a gnarly one.
It's a gnarly one.
Of 45 offensive plays, Lucas, 33 offensive plays for the Tennessee Titans yesterday went for 2 yards or less. What is that? I'm watching people talk today about Zach Wilson on talk radio and sports television. Mike Greenberg, noted national Jets fan, saying, you got to get that kid out of there. I felt similarly for Ryan Tannehill yesterday, for Derrick Henry yesterday, when there was just nothing available for them, either of them, to get going in the passing game or the rushing attack. 33 plays of 45 went for 2 yards, 1 yard, 0 yards or lost yards. By the way, their scoring drive, as we mentioned, the only scoring drive of the day, that they got the ball inside the Browns' red zone because of a forced fumble by SMB. Lost 9 yards in 3 plays. 33 of their 45 plays going for 2 yards or less. It is disgusting. That is not professional football. That is an embarrassment.
Do you know how many of those were for 0 yards or less?
Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
You want to tell me?
It was 24.
Ugh. Oh. You double down on me. Things that make you go, ugh.
That's the stat I thought you were going to come out with.
No, these are pretty bad. They're all
24
bad.
for 0 yards or less.
That's the bigger number.
Okay. Derrick Henry, 11 carries yesterday for 20 yards, an average of 1.8 yards per carry. His lowest rushing total as a Tennessee Titan since when?
Oh, was it the last time the Tennessee Titans played the Cleveland Browns when they got worked here by Baker Mayfield?
What year was that?
2020?
No, we got to go further back than that.
Oh, really? I don't know.
2017, December 17th at the San Francisco 49ers.
So he's playing behind DeMarco Murray at that point.
That is his second year in the league before Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry as we know him.
Phew. Okay, my turn?
Your turn.
Lucas, how many offensive yards, you might have heard this earlier, how many offensive yards did the Tennessee Titans net yesterday? Because Ryan Tannehill did have over 100 yards passing. He was sacked 5 times and lost a substantial amount of yardage. 5 sacks, a loss of 36 yards. How many net yards of offense did the Titans have yesterday?
I mean, I know the answer.
Okay.
94.
Do you know how many penalties yardage? How much yardage in penalties they lost yesterday?
80.
8 penalties for 80 yards. They almost outgained themselves in penalty yardage lost. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. I mentioned to you the AP, Teresa Walker, had a stat that it's the lowest net offensive yardage output by this franchise. It's never happened in the history of the Tennessee Titans, but in 49 years of the Houston Oilers Titans franchise existing, this was the lowest yardage output. 94, next to 80 lost in penalties. Now, we mentioned the officiating, and you'll hear from Jeff Simmons in just a little bit. The officiating was bad on both sides. If you're going to cite to me a bad DPI on SMB, and by the way, you would be entitled to, I would cite to you the officials blowing a touchdown dead on Amari Cooper, which is one of the worst penalties that are one of the worst calls made by an official that I've seen in any game this year. So let's keep the same energy. The officials are bad for everybody. You don't get to pigeonhole the officials on anything. In contributing any the only thing consistent about the officials is that they have been consistently bad.
There's no room today for an officiating conversation.
I don't think so.
The 2nd and 26, where the Titans bailed out the Browns with not 1 but 2 defensive penalties, was a really bad moment for this defense. Roughing the passer, pass interference, and the Browns get a get-out-of-jail-free card on really their only disastrous offensive play of the day. I don't know what Deshaun Watson was doing when he's getting swung down, dumps it off to Elijah Moore, and it's a big loss, and they get bailed out the next play. Okay, how many total yards did the Titans have in the second half?
Well, 94 net, I'll say 40.
26.
Oh, God. Is that just the number?
They had 26 yards.
They're
in the
almost
second
better
half.
when they're shorter like that. That one cut so much worse. It's just like you came in here and knifed me in the side. 26? It was like weirdly entertaining for the first half, the football game. Because I didn't, there was stuff on both sides that you said, okay, well, this is not going to be the most crisply played game, but they're going to find ways to bother one another. 26 yards in the second half of that football game is pretty ghastly. Lucas, we mentioned that this is Deshaun Watson's best performance, 9 games as a Cleveland Brown, this was his best performance by far. Did you see some of the numbers on Deshaun Watson?
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Watson, not just as a quarterback, but this is one that's going to hurt you bad because we haven't really talked about the defense yet. Because defense, not as big a problem as the offensive line, but a massive contributor to the loss. Deshaun Watson throwing 20-plus yards down the field. All right, so an explosive play. Deshaun Watson with explosive plays. Do you know how he fared on passes of 20 or more yards down the field in his first 8 career starts as a Brown?
Ooh, 20 or more. So basically X plays.
How many X plays did Deshaun Watson have?
I'm going to say 6 or 7.
5.
Okay.
He completed 5 of potentially 21 opportunities of 20 or more yards down the field. Deshaun Watson connected on 5 in his first 8 career starts with Cleveland. He was 146 yards on those 5 of 21 completions for a touchdown and 2 interceptions. Yesterday, on throws down the field of 20 or more yards, 4 of 5, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
How many of those to Amari Cooper?
So Amari Cooper, let me pull up the miscellaneous stats because I have
He averaged 16 and a half yards per catch.
the 10 biggest plays for both teams, courtesy of the game book that they give us. So, to Amari Cooper, he had the 43-yard completion for the touchdown late in the fourth, which was the score that, I mean, it already felt out of hand, but it was a score that officially sealed the deal. He had another for 25 to Amari Cooper. Those were the 2. Donovan Peoples-Jones, a 29-yard completion. And then we're talking about plays, opportunities of 20 or more yards. So he didn't connect on all of them, but he did connect on 4 or 5. You got any more?
Oh, I got more. What was the Titans' average start? Where, as far as average drive start, what yard line?
The 25?
No, their own 38.
Oh.
Which puts into perspective just how bad of a performance this was on offense. If you're starting on average every drive on your own 38-yard line, that's pretty good.
It's incredible.
It means you got to go 62 yards to get points. That was their average. And still, with that number of 94 total yards of offense on a day where you averaged starting on your own 38, 12 yards away from midfield, puts into perspective how bad of a performance this was from the offense. The Browns averaged starting on their own 20. Ryan Stonehouse had himself a day.
Well, that was a set. Well, there was somebody had a number about Stonehouse's punt that ended up being like 74 yards after a penalty or something like that, something outrageous. But yes, Stonehouse with directional punting looks like he's improving. Again, nobody's looking for positives to spin today, but the special teams weren't a problem. We mentioned this earlier, but it is worth repeating because we are going to hear from Mike Vrabel in about 30 minutes, and the offensive line is obviously going to be a talking point. Sacks that the Cleveland Browns had gotten as a defense in 2 games with one of the best defenses in football, but not getting home, not causing the thing that makes it most difficult for an offense to sustain or survive. 2 sacks for the Cleveland Browns in 2 games prior to yesterday's Week 3 at home for Cleveland. 5 sacks on the day of Ryan Tannehill, who has now been sacked on the year through 3 games, 13 times, and pressured quite a bit more. They can't keep the quarterback upright. The quarterback who, has been under duress for the better part of 3 seasons right now. It's not an excuse for him. It is an explanation of what is happening. They can't keep him upright. He can't settle in. He is missing on things that he should routinely make. He looks shook in those moments. And why wouldn't he be? Myles Garrett is bearing down on his neck. Myles Garrett is in his face mask on every play yesterday. It's kind of like, do you watch any Sunday Night Football?
I did, yeah.
With the Raiders and the Steelers. And the Steelers ultimately won that game. But Max Crosby, on almost every dropback for Kenny Pickett, was an unholy terror. Now, there's only one Max Crosby for the Raiders defense, and the Browns have a lot of dudes who can get after the quarterback and make life a difficult situation. And the Steelers also might have a better offensive line than do the Titans. But it's consistent that the offensive line in pass protection undermines them when they try to get anything done, and the sacks are the biggest thing killing their drives. They are the thing that that is most difficult for them to overcome.
My last one, Titans were 2 for 12 on third down. 10 of the 12 third down opportunities were from 3rd and 8 or longer. It's never going to set this offense up for success.
That's the second time it's happened. That's the second time in 3 games. Those same exact stats. 3rd and 8 or longer, and a conversion rate of 2 of 12 on third down. All right, phone calls next. You're going to hear from Jeff Simmons. You're going to hear from Andre Dillard. You're going to hear from Derrick Henry. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Get to your phone calls here in just a second. I do want you to hear from Mike Vrabel, though, before he speaks at 11:45. We were in the press conference with him in Cleveland last night. Welcome back to the show. Lucas, give your third down stat again, because it's the second time in 3 games that it's looked like that for them.
So Titans were 2 of 12 on third down, but perhaps more glaring, 10 of those 12 third down opportunities, they were facing 3rd and 8 or longer.
Yeah, not sustainable. 2 of 3 weeks, that's been the case. So Mike Vrabel, I asked him last night why they were struggling or what he felt like they were most struggling with, and I thought he articulated it pretty well.
I just weren't able to get into the drive. You know what I mean? We didn't pressure us, and a lot of guys were on the line of scrimmage, and felt like we wanted to try to get into the line of scrimmage and get downhill. Wanted to try to protect and throw some shots, but you got to be able to hold up, and just weren't able to get any kind of rhythm, especially in a road environment, a fantastic environment, much like we talked about in New Orleans. Too many 3rd and long opportunities, and then when we did have a drive and got down there, didn't take advantage of when we got the turnover, weren't able to take advantage of the turnover, and then when we got the end of half, where we could have done something and got the ball in the second half, it just it's frustrating all the way around, but we'll come back.
So he kept repeating that, we'll come back. And, he had a moment last night where he's saying this is not a pep talk or whatever. Like, I think he felt himself starting to do a little bit of the Ryan Day stuff, where Ryan Day is going at Lou Holtz. And he was obviously watching that game where Ohio State beat Notre Dame in as time expired, and we'll talk college football more tomorrow. But, I think he stopped himself from going into, you guys are starting narratives and it's us against the world and all these things. And he went back to a message that he's consistent with when they lose or when they have these down times, which is, I just keep emphasizing we got to stick together. And then there's, of course, the mantra that's ever present in, this is what now, 6 seasons of Mike Vrabel? Got to play better, got to coach better, right? What are the early returns on the poll, by the way? At Buck Rising on Twitter is where you can vote, where we asked people, what do the Titans need to do more of? Do they have to play better, or do they have to coach better?
Pulling it up, what do you think it is?
I bet today it's coach better.
It is play better, 73%.
So you're putting more of the onus on the players than you are on the coaches. Interesting.
I think for a lot of people, the stance is, because somebody called, one of the first calls we took on Titans Talkback was, what's the Titans' identity on offense right now? Which is fair. But at the same time, no matter what their identity was yesterday, it was like they didn't even have an opportunity to get it off the ground with how bad they were getting beat up front.
Connor is in Johnson City up next. Hey, Connor.
Hey, Buck. I'm not going to take the full 60 seconds this time like I did last time, but I know you guys were throwing the stats around, and I believe, I'd have to double check, but Ryan Tannehill was sacked 13 times in the past 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Dillard, Andre Daly, whatever you want to call him, gave up 6 of those, so almost half. I believe that's the correct stat. Statistically, I agree with you, Buck. He's poised to be way worse than Dennis Daly was. He only gave up 12 sacks. Dennis Daly only gave up 12 sacks last season. And then here we are, Andre Dillard at 6, 3 weeks in. There are other teams in the league with bad offensive lines, albeit not as bad as the Titans, I'm sure, that still can produce somewhat average quarterback play. That's on Vrabel and Tim Kelly. I'm not so huge on Tim Kelly being, a part of the offense last year, but, I'm hopeful there's some changes and hopefully something's got to give here. So that's pretty much all I have to say. One more thing, Christian Fulton, we're not going to talk about benching him, but he needs to be benched. Deshaun Watson throwing the ball backwards and losing 16 yards, and then 3 plays later they're celebrating a touchdown. So it's just embarrassing and frustrating all at the same time. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you for the call. So I'm looking at Pro Football Focus right now, and Blaine made a good point on the pregame show. We'll get back to the phone calls in a second, 615-737-1045. Blaine made a good point on the pregame show that, depending on where you're getting your statistics from, the number might be different than the number that the coaches assign to him, right? So you may have seen 6 somewhere, but that's not how the coaches are going to grade necessarily the sacks. Now, I don't know if that number is higher. I don't know if that number is lower. It's just important context to keep in mind. That.
So could that be like if you see what appears to be a sack given up by X player, you assign that to him, but when in reality, when the coaches look at it, they know that that wasn't his assignment to begin with, and it was actually like a situation like that?
Yes. I'm not saying that that's the case with Andre Dillard.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's important context to keep in mind. Pro Football Focus is a good reference that the public and the media has access to, but it's not how the coaching staff always evaluates or charts or things of that nature. So just important context to keep in mind.
It's like when we see someone get beat downfield, right, and we assume that it was their blown coverage, when in reality it wasn't their job at all and something else got lost in the line of communication, and it can be hard to judge.
Like when Amari Cooper goes streaking through the Titans secondary and Fulton and Hooker are the closest guy in coverage, and half the audience is going to pin that on Fulton, half the audience is going to pin that on Hooker, and the coaching staff actually knows whose assignment it was and who blew the coverage in the middle of that. They'll have the answers to that. They'll make their own assessments, and obviously the conversation that we'll have here is we have the resources that we have, right? This is the fundamental flaw in any kind of sports analysis. Unless you're in the meeting rooms, you don't actually know everything that goes on. So just important. And that's not a defense of Dillard, okay? It's not. I just think 6 being a hard and fast number that people are going to hear and think that that's how the coaching staff sees it. That may not be how the coaching staff sees it. Ladarius is in Nashville up next.
Being a season ticket member, if we're going to lose, I'm tired of losing boring. The same way we lost last year, I would rather bench Christian Fulton, bench the starting left tackle, and bench Ryan Tannehill, but not for Malik Willis, for Will Levis. Like, give us some excitement. The people that's buying season tickets, spending all this money, at least give us something to be youthful and more energized. Let us see Will Levis. If we're going to be sucky, let us see the future. I'm tired of going with the same old players. Christian Fulton does the same thing. Tannehill, when he does get time, because the Tampa Bay quarterback, Baker Mayfield, if other teams get sacked, the Washington quarterback has got sacked 19 times. He still is, they're 2-1. He's still having 300-yard games. Even C.J. Stroud in Houston, he's been sacked 11 times. He won this weekend. He's still 2 300-yard games. And that's all I got.
Thanks for the call. So I get your point. They're not going to do it, right? I mean, it's a completely reasonable thing by a fan to say, hey, give me something more exciting to watch. If I'm going to pay money to go to your games, if I'm going to be invested in your football team, give me a reason to be invested other than give me the same old, same old. And it's not the same old, right? Last Sunday is drastically different than this most recent Sunday was. The Chargers game is drastically different. Your emotions are drastically different than they were simply a week ago. And the variance in between there, is the thing that they are tasked with kind of trying to work through. The question is, it's not, are they done? Are they washed? Are they, bench everybody and move on, rip the Band-Aid off? The question is, now, are they capable of problem solving? Are they equipped? Do they have the personnel? Do they have the coaching staff? Do they have the front office that's put those pieces in place? It's Rand Carthon's first year. Rand Carthon's, work for the offseason, right, is done. This is the product for 2023. Now it's about scouting for him. Now it's about, pro personnel and things like that for free agency preparations and all that. So it's not for them, and how football teams approach this is to try and be devoid of that emotion, try and avoid emotional reactions, and see if they're capable of problem solving. You may not think that they are. And it doesn't sound like Ladarius does. I'm not here to argue with him today. They were not capable of problem solving yesterday in a 27-3 ass kicking. But realistically, no. I mean, look at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are supposed to be the team most actively tanking in professional football right now.
Tell them that.
Tell Josh Dobbs that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Dobbs.
That defense, too, man. That defense. Jonathan Gannon has done a really nice job with that defense, and the Cardinals have been in every game. In every game, competitive through the first 2 weeks, and then knocking off the hottest team in the NFL in week 3.
That gives me hope for anybody who makes the tanking arguments. Because it proves to me, it validates to me that it doesn't really exist in the NFL. That no team is actively tanking that way, other than what Stephen Ross tried to pull a couple of years ago with the Dolphins. That reassures my faith in, like, what I know football teams to be, and the whole purpose, like, not even from a selfish perspective, because I'm out here working games, but, like, if you're throwing away a season, why should fans care? Why should media care? Why should anybody care about you if you're throwing away a football season? I detest that. I hate it. I understand why people want it when they think that their season is done and dusted in week 1 or week 3 or week 5 or week 7. But the Cardinals yesterday validated to me, it felt like a little bit, why the hell NFL teams should not, why teams don't, not why they should not, why they don't.
And they're not going to contend for a Super Bowl this year.
No, nobody's saying that.
But Jonathan Gannon's trying to set a culture there in year 1, and what worse way to set a culture and start a tenure than saying, all right, guys, gunning for that number 1 pick. Yes.
Wave the white flag. The Cowboys are coming to town. We may be able to get them this week, but you know what? I don't know, Josh. Play a little less hard.
0-17. You think we could do it? Make some history.
That's what every time somebody asks me for a record prediction, I tell them 0-17. No wins, no losses, 17 ties.
Oh, please. That would be so great if that happened. I can't explain to you how bad I want that to happen to somebody in the NFL that is not named the Tennessee Titans. I can't tell you how bad I would want that.
You've spoken to that into existence, and now it's, now because people think things like that are real, because I said you can't be the team that Deshaun Watson gets right against, and then all of a sudden Deshaun Watson's getting right against your team.
But I said that. I asked Dan Lobby of Cleveland.com on Friday about what the breaking point would be with the fan base in Cleveland on Deshaun Watson. And before I asked the question, I said, I'm very wary to ask you this because of the possibility that we might see Deshaun on Sunday similar to what we saw in Houston. And, of course, that's what ends up happening.
He sure did. Well, that's the thing. Like, he still wasn't that good.
So last night when we were talking on the phone, you said he was terrible. And I was like, what? I stopped what I was doing. I put down my spatula. I could not believe what I heard.
Cooking the entire time.
I didn't put it down.
What'd you make last night?
Stuffed bell peppers.
They looked so good on Instagram.
They were awesome. So, yeah, you said that last night. You're like, yeah, he wasn't even good. He was terrible. And I was like, excuse me? What was he, 27 of 33? Spinning out of big Jeff tackles in the backfield and then making plays on the perimeter? What?
Hey, man, that is one number that I don't think tells the story of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was not almost like an efficient 300-yard passer yesterday. I'm sorry. That player taking advantage of coverage busts and maximizing opportunities, making throws when he needed to. He looked better. I'm not saying that he didn't look better, but Deshaun Watson, while it seems like he might be the thing that beat you yesterday, he's really not, which is the frustrating thing. I think he didn't have a great game. Terrible may have been an extreme, but I'm telling you, that 16-yard loss where he throws it backwards as a fumble, it's the dumbest play I've seen a quarterback make.
It's a really bad play.
It's a horrendous play.
He's using his athleticism to escape tackles in the backfield, to keep plays alive.
They're using his athleticism to take advantage of opportunities and that play strength, as Mike Vrabel described.
Yeah, so I was pretty surprised to hear you say that last night, that Deshaun Watson was terrible.
I thought he was not good. That's how bad I thought the Titans performed. I thought Deshaun Watson had a mid-performance and went out there and looked like he kicked their asses.
Yeah, he had some help, for sure, but he took advantage of it.
Yes, he did, to his credit. All you have to do is take advantage of it.
Like, it wasn't the deer in headlights look, completely unconfident Deshaun Watson that we had seen.
I don't know that he was ever deer in head. Like, I think Deshaun Watson understands what he's seeing from defenses. You don't just lose all of that. It doesn't just evaporate in 2 years. It can get rusty. It can move slower. But, like, the problem for me was the inaccuracy. the fact that he can't get his footwork right, like the mechanical stuff is crazy. Because like that I didn't think could evaporate in real time, but apparently it had. Okay, Mike Vrabel is going to speak to the media. We're going to carry that press conference. I don't know what kind of roller coaster ride it's going to be, but you can find out coming up next. Waiting for the head coach at the podium. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel here in just a little bit. A lot to talk about after this 27-3 loss at the hands of the Cleveland Browns. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, we'll make sure to have phone calls immediately after the head coach, but we'll go live now to St. Thomas Sports Park. Audio is not working, apparently, at St. Thomas Sports Park. So, if we hear me, you think that's done intentionally? Wait, quick, sandbag them out the gate. He's going to talk about Andre Dillard first. No. We will, as the Titans work through their IT deficiencies, I'm sure somebody's been made aware that they can't hear Mike Vrabel in the press conference. Do you want me to take a phone call in the meantime, Lucas? Okay, let's do that. Darius in East Nashville has been waiting.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing today?
Good.
It's good, man. I just want to talk about the cornerbacks. They are terrible. I'm sorry. They are terrible. I played cornerback all the way up to college before I blew my knee out. Number one rule, keep your eyes out of the backfield, man. And Christian Fulton lives in the backfield. That's where his eyes are always at, in the backfield, and defenders run right past him every time. So I just feel like the cornerbacks got to tighten up their coverage, man. They got to get better. The secondary are killing us right now. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for the call. Yeah, the Watson success downfield, we read you those numbers earlier. That was, by the way, courtesy of Ian Harditz at Pro Football Focus. Some of them, the penalties, particularly on Murphy Bunning, I thought there was the DPI that was an unfair call. I thought that the calls on Fulton were fair. I thought that there were calls that were made on the Browns that were also unfair. We mentioned the Amari Cooper should have been touchdown that was not. But the secondary, Kevin Byard can't do it all. We've talked about this. There were miscues all over the place. We mentioned coverage bus. I expect better from Amani Hooker. I expect better from Christian Fulton. Christian Fulton is having his worst start to a season that I can remember in a contract year where he's already missed time for a hamstring. It's the worst case scenario for a dude that has a lot on the line. I'm not saying that Christian Fulton can't play corner in the NFL, but right now something is not working for him. And I don't know what it is that's in his way, what's causing him to be in the picture on so many of these explosive plays or these penalties that we talk about through 3 weeks. But it's not sustainable. He's still, when available, when healthy, I think, one of the better corners that they have. But he hasn't been that this year.
And that wasn't limited to the secondary yesterday, right? Coach Mack's analysis on the Jerome Ford touchdown catch was Azeez Al-Shaair getting caught looking at the backfield. Mm-hmm. Ford leaks out and left side of the end zone, wide open touchdown.
They were bad across the board. That's why I didn't understand these comments from Jeff Simmons yesterday. Let's hear from Big Jeff about about what happened on the defensive side of the ball and how he received everything that went down in the loss.
We didn't play good. I mean, we got our coach after. It's from top down, everybody in this organization today, we got beat. So we got to come back ready to work.
What were they doing to mitigate the impact that you guys typically have up front, Jeff?
I mean, we were back there. We didn't get them down. I mean, it wasn't that. They were doing a lot of, like the flags here and there. I mean, I don't know. We all have a job, and I guess we all need to do better at that. I just don't agree with a lot of stuff that they was calling. But I mean, at the end of the day, our goal was to stop the run. We did that. We gave up a big couple plays down the field, but at the end of the day, it wasn't just like they were just beating our tail up and down the field. We just got to eliminate bad football.
You guys talked all week about Deshaun and being able to extend plays and stuff, and he was able to do that. How frustrating? You had a game plan, obviously. This is what we want to limit, and then they were still able to do that.
Like I said, we was getting back there a couple of times. He broke out of the sacks or what it may be, but, we knew he was a strong guy with the ball. He gave us a lot of opportunity at the ball. Even with the one he threw back, and running around with the ball loose. We just got to take advantage of bad football, and we didn't today.
So then he's asked about the idea. Well, actually, Mike Vrabel. All right, let's set this up. Mike Vrabel is asked about coach better, play better, right? The line that we hear a lot after loss, the line that we hear almost after every loss. And Mike Vrabel is asked if the message of coach better, play better is resonating with the football team. This is before we go into the locker room and ask the players the same thing. This was Mike Vrabel.
And you'd have to ask them right when you walk in there. Go ask them, Paul. What resonates is that we're going to compete, just like we have for a lot of years, and we'll get written off. This isn't like some kind of motivational speech. It's just what happens in this league, and we're going to have to come back. We'll have to have a great week of practice, figure out who we have available, and get back to work and figure out a way to win a game at home. And so point out the things that we need to work on, get them fixed right away, and keep going. It's a long season, but we're focusing on this week. And
So you'll have to ask the players. All right. So we go in the locker room, and we ask the players, is the message
for a lot of
Might be.
It's like, Jackson, did you drop your phone on a button? That's funny. How checked out does he have to be when you and I are on the road that he's looking at his phone over the board and just drops it? That's on us. That's not on him. We're not entertaining Jackson enough while he sits alone here in a dark box by himself when Lucas and I are out on golf courses or training camp. So Jeff Simmons is asked, is the message resonating of coach better, play better?
But at the same time, that's getting old. It's time to actually do it. We've been hearing that message every week. Now it's time for us to actually do it. We talk about it so much. We gotta do this, we gotta do that, but it's a mindset. It's time to win. It's time to stop having the same thing over and over again. We gotta play better, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a winner. I like to win, so it's time to just put it together and start winning.
It's getting old, is what Jeff Simmons says. Now, that's not a conversation that we've had. All right. Apparently, Mike Vrabel now has audio. So we'll go live to St. Thomas Sports Park, see if he's been asked about this.
Chances to catch and run and help us.
Is that a body maintenance thing for him in that particular
You'd have to ask DeAndre. I'm not going to speak for him.
That drive you had just before halftime, you guys were chipping on Myles Garrett most of the way down, and you got in the red zone and you kind of got away from it. Did you just have a play where it was supposed to get the ball out quickly? Or?
Well, you just get, like talked about last night, some of those red zone concepts, they're trying to get guys out to spread the field, and didn't work out for us on that particular play. We'll have to have an answer, for that. Something that we know that the ball's got to go in the end zone or it's got to go out of bounds. Those are critical. That's the end of the half and being able to get 3 points and hopefully come back in the second half, get regrouped, going there with a little bit of just energy and confidence that you went down there and scored. And so that didn't turn out that way.
Do you have a chance to get Peter back this week? And if so,
I'm sure there's a chance, but I don't know how big or how small the chance is.
The last TD pass, was that some miscommunication?
Yeah, it was misexecution. Okay. Christian supposed to cover the guy.
Is Nicholas back in the building?
He is in the building, yep. And he's allowed to meet. He's allowed to work out. He's allowed to condition, train by himself, but he can be in meetings, and he can't be at practice or attend games.
What do you imagine that to be like in terms of a ramp up for the return?
I imagine that will be working out, and he'll be training by himself with the strength and conditioning staff. I imagine that he'll be in meetings, and I imagine that he won't be at the games or practice.
With Hassan's case being dismissed, are you anticipating him being removed from the exempt list anytime?
It's not my exempt. It's not my exempt list. I would try to help you out, guys. I would have no idea.
In the past, back when AJ was here, if you remember, he had the issue with contemplating suicide. Chris Hubbard has had a friend who he lost to suicide. Have you got to talk to him at all about that, especially with this being Suicide Awareness Month?
No, but I will. I didn't know. I hadn't been aware of that. And again, mental health is critical. Our ability to take care of ourselves and what we need to be happy and healthy and function. Again, be a lot of attacks on the Tennessee Titans and our players and our coaches, and that's just a small example. I mean, we play a game here, so we're going to try to win, and we're going to do everything we can, and we're going to improve. But we're also, we're going to be mindful of our mental health and our physical health.
With him being a veteran in that group, with a lot of
he's been a
young
great
guys,
addition, by the way.
yeah.
Chris has been a great addition.
That's what I wanted to ask you, how he's been able to come in and kind of.
I think he's just a veteran. He spent time in two good organizations. He spent time in Pittsburgh, in Cleveland. Have always seen him from afar, but really respect the person that he is and how he's come in and earned a position on his team and continuing to work.
Is Sean in the protocol, or did he get cleared?
He was not placed into the protocol.
Mike, the exploits that you've given up defensively have all come against your pass defense. Is that a function of how good you are against the run, how much teams throw, and how much of it, when they do happen, is a guy making a play, maybe like Amari on the sideline yesterday?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think
later?
that there's, unfortunately, that's the categories that we lump them into, right? Did we just get beat? Were we in, close proximity, or maybe our technique was poor? Did we have a communication error like what occurred maybe against the Chargers? Or did we just have a mental error like maybe what occurred yesterday at the end of the game? Just playing quarters coverage and, thinking that Hook was going to take them. And, that's so, again, there's no easy answer to that. I apologize. I know that that's not what you're looking for. We know that has to stop. We talk about making them earn it. Part of that is affecting the quarterback with a pass rush or getting them off the spot, or when you do get them off the spot, being able to get them on the ground. So I think it all goes hand in hand. It's just not the guys in coverage. It's the guys up front, and that's how we have to look at it, and that's how we have to coach it.
Maybe no easy answer, Mike, too, for the offense. You scored 3 touchdowns through 3 games so far. Do you look at tweaking the scheme? Is it just no execution? Is it all how do you go about trying to?
Well, I think we want to make sure that we're as efficient and as confident and as urgent and decisive as we possibly can. So looking through the first 3 games, what we've done well, thing that, when we look at it, do the players look like they're executing it with confidence, right? Whether it's, positive play or just a couple yard gain, but it looks like they know what they're doing. And I'm not talking analytics and saying it was a 10-yard gain because of missed tackle. It was a 10-yard gain because it was well blocked. Guys knew what to do. Guys were flying. They could adjust to whatever look that the defense gave us. And I'm also going to think that, I think the Saints and certainly the Browns are going to be 2 of the better defenses in the league. And the Chargers presented their problems. But on the road, you have to be really good. Against those 2 defenses, we were not. So we're going to get back to work, man. We're going to make sure that we're doing everything for our players that help them and help us, move the ball, whether it's hit an X play or get down the red zone, be locked in, know that they're probably going to pressure and, after a turnover and, that's, for us to win, we have to be able to do that. We got a great turnover from SMB. We got to turn that into a touchdown on the 18-yard line.
Are the double moves affecting you guys more so than maybe in the past? And anything that can be done more so against them?
I mean, get your eyes on your man. That's one way. Get there a little quicker in the pass rush. But when you look in the backfield, you don't really see the receiver. Covered it, well against the Chargers. Got beat against the Saints, and they probably ran a couple yesterday.
You're listening to WGFX Gallatin and Nashville 104.5 The Zone. Oh.
No.
How about that? I'm trying to do the professional legal ID thing. All right, let's go to break. It's a final hour. You just heard from Mike Vrabel. We can react to it now. 615-737-1045 is the number. Some comments there about explosive plays that the secondary is giving up. Did you hear him say specifically that Christian Fulton was supposed to be the defender on the wide receiver when Amari Cooper went streaking through their secondary for a coverage bust? For those of you who are looking for Mike Vrabel to call people out, it's not like that's the first time it's happened. But now, when he's willing to give you those details, it's typically Monday after the fact. You just have to be listening in order to hear them. So, the accountability, it's there. The question is, can they fix it? The number, you have it. If you want to get involved, you can also get in on the action in the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Offensive line situation sounds like it's going to stay the same. So we had a caller bring up earlier Andre Dillard and the amount of sacks that he is credited with giving up through these first 3 games. And I had mentioned earlier that Andre Dillard is on track, not worse than yet, but on track to be worse than Dennis Daly was for this team at left tackle last year. Here are now, and this is, again, the context is important. This is from Pro Football Focus. These are not how the coaches will have graded Andre Dillard. So the coach's assessment of Andre Dillard may not be as scathing as this one sounds. But Pro Football Focus, Mike Herndon put it out there on Twitter, had Titans left tackle Andre Dillard. How many sacks? So Browns had 5. How many sacks do you think Andre Dillard would be credited with giving up? Credited is probably the wrong word, but
2 or 3?
3. How many pressures?
Credited to Dillard.
To Dillard.
They had what, 10?
They had more than 10.
Or they had 10 hurries, I think.
They had 10 hurries.
How many pressures did they have?
I don't have the total pressure numbers in front of me, but it is more than 10.
I'll say 6.
7. 7 total pressures allowed by Andre Dillard. Now, again, Myles Garrett is the most unblockable thing in football.
Is that the best defense in football right now? It has to be, right? It's the best resume in football through 3 weeks.
Cowboys just got scorched by Josh Dobbs.
But you said it. The Titans are the first team to get into the red zone against the Browns, and that's because Sean Murphy-Bunting forced a fumble.
Now, they also did drive into the red zone.
Oh, that's right. So, okay, Titans didn't even get into the red zone from the fumble.
No.
You're right.
Well, no, they did. They were in the red zone.
Twice.
Because of the fumble.
Right.
And then backed themselves out of the red zone because they had a scoring drive that lost 9 yards.
Yeah, that was a negative 9-yard drive. That's right. Okay, so the Titans were 0 for 2 in the red zone.
0 for 2.
And that's
but they're the first
crazy.
team. Like Pittsburgh couldn't get inside of 30 on Cleveland. So it's probably Cleveland and San Francisco. You could debate 1 or 2 week by week.
Cleveland's got the resume right now. The numbers favor the Cleveland Browns as the best defense in the league.
They through 3 weeks are, if not the best, one of the best defenses in football. It's the fact. Chig said last night, I was talking to him in the locker room, he says, fastest defense we've seen. They were doing disrespectful bleep all over the place, like putting Myles Garrett in motion. When have you ever seen a defensive end go in motion? The tight end's following him in motion that almost forces a delay of game, if not for a timeout that was called to prevent the delay of game on the offense.
And if they're top 2, the Browns and the Niners, or the Saints, top 3, the only team in the NFL to not allow 20 points in a game yet?
I haven't seen their game against the Packers. I know that the Packers ended up coming back on them last night.
Yeah, it was 17-0. Packers come back and win 18-17. Derek Carr got knocked out with a shoulder injury.
So anyway, let me finish this thought here. Pro Football Focus had left tackle Andre Dillard down yesterday. 3 sacks, 7 total pressures allowed. His season totals are now 6 sacks, according to Pro Football Focus, not according to the coaching staff, but Pro Football Focus. 16 pressures, a season-long pace of 34 sacks, and 91 pressures. Dennis Daly, do you remember the numbers on Dennis Daly? How many sacks and how many pressures?
12 sacks, right? I don't remember the pressures.
52.
Over how many games?
16.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. He played in all 17 games last year.
Gotcha.
He played in all 17 games.
He didn't start till LeJuan went down.
He did not start. He didn't start the Bills game. Taylor played the first snap of the Bills game. He didn't start, but he played all of the snaps afterwards.
Right.
It's 3 games. It's 3 weeks. they have to find a way to stop the bleeding. But that, Mike is on Twitter yesterday during the game making jokes about Dennis Dillard, but he is worse than Dennis Daly was last year thus far. Now, you're going to hear from Andre Dillard coming up next. And I think the immediate reaction by people, or at least I know the immediate reaction by people when I tweeted out this video last night, is going to be to rip Andre Dillard. I want you to hear this quote here in just a little bit, but we'll take some phone calls first. 615-737-1045 before we get to that portion of the audio. Sandy is in Westmoreland up next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how many more losses do we have to have before Vrabel's on the hot seat?
A lot more.
Okay. What's a lot more? 9 more?
Well, he's 1-9 in his last 10, and he's not on the hot seat. So yes, a lot more. I would say it's probably going to go beyond this season. They can't crater. If they win 3 games, what I guess is the answer that you're looking for there, Sandy?
Well, looked like to me the coaching is way, way, way on the left side of being good. I know the players are not doing good either, but we got to blame some of this on the coaching.
No, the coaches got smoked yesterday, but I guess was the coaching the issue in the first 2 games?
Well, probably not, but they were yesterday.
Okay. So 1 game of 3 so far in the season. I'm not defending them. They were terrible yesterday. They got outclassed at every level but special teams. Nobody is disputing that today, but Mike Vrabel's not getting fired. Mike Vrabel's not on the hot seat. And you can want him to be. And listen, the questions about the message, coach better, play better, falling flat in the locker room, that's completely fair. He's got to find a way to reach these guys better. And that kind of sounds crazy to say because Mike Vrabel commands the room as well as anybody in professional football. There's dudes that we talk about that way. Dan Campbell is one of them. You may think that Dan Campbell is just a big dumb meathead. Dan Campbell knows what's going on with his football team. Mike Vrabel likes when people think of him as just a big dumb meathead. Mike's one of the smartest people in football. He may not have felt like that yesterday, but this is the Deion Sanders stuff. Can you get guys can you resonate with players, especially when the generational gaps are what they are? Can you get people with short attention spans, a roster that's younger? The Titans roster has a lot of younger players, a lot of new players. Can you get young people to pull together in the same direction on a consistent basis? He has displayed the ability to do this before. Jeff Simmons is saying that coach better, play better. They've been hearing the same message every week. And at some point, something has to change. He's right. The question is, how are they going to problem solve to do that? More of your phone calls coming up next. You'll hear from Andre Dillard, who was a big talking point yesterday in the locker room. Caught up with him, Jimmy Wyatt, Teron Davenport, myself. We were the only 3 reporters to do so, and I'll explain why on the other side. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. So offensive line play. We talked about this. We knew that Andre Dillard was going to be a question mark all year long. Whether love is enough to lift the Titans' offensive line a little higher and higher, who's to say? But there was not a lot of love lost between Myles Garrett and Andre Dillard yesterday. Or maybe there was. I mean, how did you, before we play these comments for the audience, were you as struck as I was by what Andre Dillard had to say that his post-game interaction with Myles Garrett was? Before we give the audience the context of the clip.
I had never seen this before, I guess.
Okay. So it is fair to characterize you as surprised by hearing Andre Dillard say this to media.
Yeah, it's never an easy thing. You know, you got a lot of good players around the league, and this team has had some really good guys on there. But third and long, they're going to be coming and bringing in pressures, and we just got to do better as a unit. I got to do better as an individual, and to sit down those pressures and those defenders.
Obviously, Myles Garrett, one of the better players in the league. What was happening there as far as your matchups with him?
I think I just need to do better with my hands and my sets and all that stuff. I talked to him after the game, and he told me his inputs. Because I'm just trying to get better, and so he kind of told me what he saw, what he liked about my game, and what I could have done differently. So.
Do you appreciate that kind of constructive criticism?
I definitely do. Yeah, especially from a player as good as him. And it's cool to see it from his perspective.
For you, after a performance like that, like how do you process it, how you work through it, and then spin it forward to the next game?
When you go through stuff like that, all you can do is just keep playing the next play and don't let your head hang, because then you'll just spiral and it'll get out of control. But what you do from that is you just learn from it. You watch the film, you study it, take the constructive criticism, and you just move forward.
Okay, so he's saying there that Myles Garrett, and he talked after the game, and Myles Garrett, in Dillard's words, was providing him context on how it was that Myles Garrett had such a stellar performance against Andre Dillard. Now, he's going to get roasted for that. He is getting roasted for that on the internet. I will admit to being surprised by hearing it. I am not going to rip Andre Dillard for that. Here's the thing. I think that he is doing everything that he's capable of doing. I think that he is giving his best effort. It's not a question of effort. It's not a question of, willingness. Andre Dillard has been in the league for a long time now. And I know he only played 47 snaps of offensive football last year. But this person has been in the National Football League since 2019. I can acknowledge that Dillard is saying, yeah, I'm fine with that kind of constructive criticism. I'm trying to improve. And I understand what he's trying to get across there. But I don't think you say that out loud.
Cameron on the F&M Bank chat says, Batman couldn't get that information out of me.
Where is she? That's a terrible Batman impression. How did Christian Bale do that whole movie with his voice like that? I still can't figure that out. I couldn't do it I couldn't do it there without my throat hurting. Where is she?
And just that concept of Batman. What did he say to you after the game?
Nothing. I swear to God, I hate Myles Garrett. I don't respect him at all.
But you talk about a guy that's been toying with offensive lines through the first 3 weeks of the year. Like Micah Parsons is having a great year as far as just a pure speed rusher. Nobody can get in front of the guy, right? I mean, there's players that TJ Watt is having a great year, but Myles Garrett is doing it more disrespectfully than anyone. He is crossing over interior offensive linemen against the Bengals. He is going in motion, and Titans offensive players are following him. Mm-hmm. And he's given constructive criticisms to guys that he just owned for 4 quarters. I mean, nobody is dominating more disrespectfully than Myles Garrett right now.
He's playing with his food. And so Dillard, says he took that in stride because I asked him the follow-up. I was like, do you appreciate somebody coming up to you and telling you the way that I phrased it is, do you appreciate that kind of constructive criticism? And, he was very quick to acknowledge, I'm trying to improve. There is a trend here, though, that is concerning. You can't create the mentality of alpha, right? And I'm not trying to beta Andre Dillard here, all right? But there is something to that where an attitude, Blaine Bishop brought this up with Jamarco Jones, and for a while I couldn't understand what Blaine was talking about because he got released from the team. I think he was also dealing with an injury, so it wasn't worth keeping Jamarco Jones for all the problems that he was causing. But I couldn't understand how Blaine, from my vantage point, was saying, well, you need that on an offensive line. And I'm sitting here, Blaine, he's smacking dudes after the play on his own team. He can't get through training camp without starting a fight. What do you mean you need that on the team? And Blaine continued to emphasize to me, no, an attitude, a nastiness, a mentality of an offensive lineman. And I feel that I was too quick to dismiss that because I thought Jamarco Jones was just a dope. I thought, control yourself. But controlled rage is what you want from an offensive lineman. Andre Dillard does not give off any kind of rage to me whatsoever. Not the kind of offensive line play that I think embodies what Tennessee Titans football has been. The mentality, the mindset, the approach, beyond the limitations that he has as a player. I didn't come away from that press conference wanting to rip Andre Dillard for copping to that. I came away from that press conference being like, oh, bud, I don't know if you're for this. I don't feel bad for professional athletes very often. And I'm not saying that you need to pity Andre Dillard. Andre Dillard is paid money to perform a task. Thus far, he is disappointed on his returns. Nobody would dispute that. But I came away thinking, I don't know what you do here. I don't know if you know what to do here. It doesn't seem that you do. Beyond, I'm happy to take constructive criticism. I'm trying to get better. When you're in the league now, I mean, this is 5 years for Andre Dillard, right? No, excuse me, 4 years, 2019 draft class.
2019, first round.
So he's a first-round draft pick. He's been in professional football for a while. He's been in one of the most competitive offensive line groups in the league in Philadelphia. Couldn't crack the line up there. Had some injury stuff as well. And in his opportunity, as a 4-year NFL pro, bud, I need, even if that's so, I'm not going to rip you for saying it. It's an honest moment. I believe that to be honest feedback. I appreciate the honesty. And I also think that's good. That honesty is going to be descended upon in ways that, whether it's fair or not, it's just, I don't know that he's got it.
It does sound like something you would hear out of a rookie, right? Out of a rookie receiver going up against an elite corner or vice versa, where you feel like, you almost want that conversation to happen.
No, I mean, that's the kind of stuff like Harold Lander used to talk about working against Lawan in practice his rookie year and how Taylor would help him, like with his hand fighting techniques and things like that. Because if you remember, I asked Weaver the same thing, like, are the offensive linemen, are you guys working together? And Weaver quickly said, no, I hate the offensive linemen, which was funny to me. But, that's fine if you're a rookie. That's fine if you're just getting in the league. You are a 4-year NFL pro who's paid. It's not necessarily it is starting left tackle money. He's a starting left tackle. He's on a 3-year, $29 million deal. It's starting left tackle money. And he's given us answers like, I'm working on improving my game. I'm working on my hand placement, my sets and things like that. And I'm looking around and being like, you've been in the NFL for how long? And these are the conversations that we're having. And Myles Garrett is treating you like a rookie offensive lineman. Myles Garrett was not drafted. There's not that big a gap between Myles Garrett and Andre Dillard in terms of when they were drafted. When was Myles Garrett the first overall pick?
I want to say 2017 because I think he came out at the same time as Derek Barnett in Tennessee. It was 2017. He was the number 1 overall pick. Yeah, because that's one of the worst takes I've ever had, ever. was in college. But Derek Barnett was so much more productive than Myles Garrett.
Oh, it's not it's not that you were arguing for not Myles Garrett. It's that you were arguing for the Vol over Myles Garrett.
Yeah, dumb little 21-year-old Lucas. Like, why is the NFL so biased towards Myles Garrett? This is why.
That's funny.
This is why.
You remember the questions about Myles Garrett because he liked poetry and dinosaurs?
He likes dinosaurs.
He likes dinosaurs.
The guy likes dinosaurs. Who doesn't? Everybody's gone through a dinosaur phase.
This is why football evaluation is so stupid. Because you have questions about the fire-breathing dragon defensive end because he likes dinosaurs and poetry.
Every male on planet Earth has gone through a dinosaur phase. And poetry just shows he's an intellectual.
No, America continues, that he's not a knuckle-dragging caveman. But he can still chew on a quarterback's spine like the bear in The Revenant.
When was your dinosaur phase?
I used to be able to rattle them all off by name. My grandparents made the mistake. I think I was 2 or 3 years old, and I taught them because I was my dinosaur phase very early on. But I do have a very visceral childhood memory of talking my grandmother into letting me watch Jurassic Park as a 5-year-old, and then having horrifying nightmares of that Tyrannosaurus Rex chasing me in my dreams at night because, I had articulated very well. Oh, well, here's the, I can't even do them now. I mean, beyond the obvious ones, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, here's an Archaeopteryx or whatever the terminology was, whatever the name was, showing my grandmother on the VHS back of all the different dinosaurs I could name. And this is an educational video, Gran. I can watch this.
I just love the idea of Myles Garrett crossing over offensive linemen and just completely bullying a full-grown man for 4 quarters and then going home, watching a dinosaur documentary while writing a poem. I hope that's what he does on Sunday nights.
I hope so, too. While he's not busy harassing and embarrassing, humiliating professional offensive linemen who have been in the league only 2 years less than him.
Man of many talents.
Yeah, that's the truth. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. How about Jason in the Borough?
Hey, guys. I got 3 things for you. So 2 things I want to talk about the game. I was going to say the defense, man. Why was there so much separation between the receivers and defense? And then on the Tannehill, when he's getting just pressured constantly, why wouldn't everything just in shotgun mode? You should just stayed in a shotgun snap. And then the last thing, the reason why I feel like the defense is just not where it needs to be is because you drafted all offensive players for your draft. You can't do that nowhere ever again, guys.
Well, I think that's objectively incorrect. Their offense was putrid last year. The offense needed the most work. The offensive line we talked about, they addressed it. The tight end group, they added players. The running back, the succession plan, and the help for Derrick Henry that Derrick Henry needs. They did things that they needed to do in the draft this year. I don't think that's. And by the way, Rand Carthon came into the press conference afterwards and told us, I didn't know I drafted 6 straight offensive players until somebody told me 30 minutes after the fact. Skoronski's not going to play left tackle though. What's the solution? Because here's the thing. Andre Dillard you don't hear from Andre Dillard very often. He's very intentional about trying to get out of the locker room before we get to him, okay? And so Jimmy Wyatt, Teron Davenport, and myself, we were the only 3 over there asking him questions because we were keeping an eye on him in the peripheral as everybody else was talking to Jeff Simmons and noticed him getting dressed and showered because the way that these things are staggered, it's easy for guys to slip out of there if you're not kind of hawking them. And you're not going to, you're going to give them a little bit of space while they're showering and getting undressed and all these things. But Andre Dillard needed to speak and spoke yesterday. And the results of that are less than satisfactory, I would think, if you're a Titans fan. But what are the solutions? I don't think they're going to move Skoronski to left tackle. You may think they drafted him to be left tackle. And by the way, can I bring this up? Do you think I'm not just doing this because, obviously Taylor Lewan is a friend of mine. So I'm not just doing this to cape up for Lewan. But it's kind of funny to see all the reaction around Lewan while he was capable of playing beyond the injuries, right? All the reaction around Lewan, and to think that Titans fans were spoiled to have Lewan at left tackle. That irony is wild to me.
Do you think and I don't want people to come at me for saying this, but do you think that they continue to let Dillard try and grow into that role?
Yes.
Right? And moving away from, okay, you're through that gauntlet of Cam Jordan and the Saints, Myles Garrett and the Browns through the first 3 weeks. I know you got to play Trey Hendrickson next week. There's a lot of good players in this league, but you've played arguably two of the top three defensive fronts in all of football in the first 3 weeks of the season. So I wonder if there's a thought to that. Now let's see how he kind of settles into the season after that. Even if it's just because there's not a better option.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the logic specifically. Like, I can't speak to what you're describing there for the coaching staff, but they're not going to move Andre Dillard. Like, if you think that the bitching today about Andre Dillard is going to result in Andre Dillard getting benched in week 3, it's not happening. Like, and by the way, I'm not necessarily saying that they should ride it out with Andre Dillard. If it was me personally, and I know you're going to hate this, I'd probably give him to the bye. I'd probably give him to the bye to iron it out. And by the way, that's 10 weeks earlier than they made a change, that they even attempted to make a change at left tackle last year when Dennis Daly started the Chargers game but ultimately got benched in the Chargers game. Radens went in and tore his ACL. You're going to hate it. You're going to disagree with me. You're going to say move Peter Skoronski to left tackle. It's not going to happen. Skoronski, they value protecting the interior of the pocket because it is easier to get to the quarterback from the inside. It's not going to make you feel any better about your tackle situation, but it is, in fact, harder on the edge rushers than it is on the guys rushing from the interior. And when Myles Garrett moves around and when Danico Autry moves around to take advantage of guard matchups, that's because you're putting your best players in position to get to the most uncomfortable place for a quarterback to have pressure, which is in the interior. Skoronski is better suited for them on the inside. He is their best offensive lineman. They are trying to keep the guard center triangle whole as much as humanly possible, the core of the pocket. And so I understand why you want Skoronski to left tackle. I'm just telling you that it doesn't make as much sense as you think it does. Now, I would say if Dillard is not improved, maybe not substantially improved, but if he is not improved by the bye week, then Radens to left tackle would be my position. Well, we can last call for phone calls. We can get into more of this on the other side because I do have to take a quick break here. So we'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Are you doing this on purpose?
No, just a great song.
It is, but it's entitled Burning Down the House. What are you trying to burn down, bud? You trying to send some subliminal messages? Are you now pro-tanking?
You're the one doing that. Stop doing that.
Who, me?
Just playing a good song.
Never. Speaking of things that you can do before we get back to the phones, it is the last day for the Kick Childhood Cancer Auction. Nashville SC has teamed up with us here at the radio station to Kick Childhood Cancer, a campaign benefiting the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital this month. Fans and listeners can bid on unforgettable experiences with their favorite radio personalities and at Nashville SC matches at Geodis Park. You can bid on these unforgettable experiences and items today by this is the last day to do it, as a matter of fact, by visiting 1045thezone.com. So get your bids in. A lot of cool stuff they got going on, Lucas, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Nashville, as of today, is providing a high-five tunnel experience with tickets to the October 4th game next Wednesday at Geodis Park against Orlando City. Bring the kids, take them down to the tunnel. They can high-five the players as they walk out onto the field, and it includes 6 tickets to that game. So, yeah, a lot of cool stuff. The station also offering up some cool stuff as well, 1045thezone.com. And you can also text Kick Cancer to 488-4401.
Sure can. Barry in Nashville is next.
Hey, how you doing, babe?
Good.
I think you hit on the cure for this whole problem. You didn't even realize it earlier on. There's nothing you can do for the rest of this season, but what you do in January right away, it's time to bring in Neon, Dion, and Shedora.
even after the Colorado loss this weekend, you're pro Dion instead of Vrabel?
Two different worlds. Two different worlds. Rally behind Neon, Dion.
Neon Dion.
Right away. You offered Neon $1 billion to take the job and take Shedora with him.
I agree. $1 billion to Deion Sanders. Hell of a business model. I agree. That
he could probably still make more money in college.
I think that's true. Deion Sanders, to not have to deal with you get free agency in the pros and things like that, but the salary cap for Deion Sanders, no, I don't think he wants anything to do with that. It's harder in the pros for obvious reasons.
I think he likes coaching college students, like young players, but who knows? Who knows if Deion wants to get into the NFL?
We weren't sure that he was serious about college, and then all of a sudden, I know this weekend's results. We'll talk Oregon and Colorado. We'll talk about Tennessee tomorrow. Mike Felder will be here. A wild game. You want to talk about coaching malpractice? Marcus Freeman, my Notre Dame Irish at home. My guy.
Yeah.
What?
Well, save it. It's my no.
Okay. Jared and Mount Juliet.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Yeah, kind of 2 plays summed it up for me yesterday. I hadn't heard a lot about the one where Watson just turns around and throws the ball back towards their end zone, and we get them in 2nd and 26. And then we bail them out with a pass interference and complement that with a roughing the passer call. So I think that was their 2nd or 3rd drive, and then just the last play to end the first half. It's just that day. I thought the left side of the interior of the line was pretty bad too. A lot of that front four with or those front guys with Cleveland were feasting, not just Garrett.
Yeah.
I don't think they're not going to tinker with this line too much. I think we'll win Sunday. This is just the year we're going to have. But I just wish that I'd love for you guys to spend some time on just how bad a job John Robinson did during his tenure as GM. There's the Wilson pick, obviously, but just so much of this to me is just on him, and we just got to work through it. But again, it just piss poor day all the way around. But John Robinson, to me, the blame goes on at his feet, if you will.
Thank you for the call, Jared. We appreciate it. I feel like that's what my entire offseason has been, is spending time on the ills wrought by John Robinson's decisions late in his tenure that they had to correct, and the process of starting to correct them. So I do believe we did that show for about 3 months. But I understand what you're saying. And, he said he believes that the Titans will win on Sunday. Well, it's you have another opponent who you're getting, another AFC North opponent coming off a short week, as it were, because the Cincinnati Bengals play tonight. You want to talk about PTSD this week for Titans fans. The Bengals at home, I'm sure that won't bring up any conversation about the quarterback.
Are we going to do this every time the Titans host the Bengals?
Yep. Bud, how many times have we had non-Tannehill-related shows that turn into Tannehill-related discussions? I keep trying to tell you, people, this is not something that's going away.
So, Joe Burrow, obviously a question mark tonight. This is tough for the Bengals. They're 0-2, so you're essentially weighing, do you risk Burrow, who gives you the best opportunity to avoid an 0-3 start, really tough to make the playoffs after 0-3, or do you rest him and get him right and wait to trot him out there until he's 100%?
Against a conference opponent, and a conference opponent in Tennessee that looks imminently more beatable. I mean, LA's playing decent football. I know they didn't have great results last week, but yeah, especially because the Ravens are 2-1 now. The Browns moved to 2-1 yesterday. And the final, it's okay, Blaine, you can come in here. It's almost over, I swear.
Steelers won. Steelers won on Monday Night Football.
Won. That's right. So
they're 2-1.
So all three of those teams are 2-1 in the division, and if the Bengals go down 0-3 tonight, the percentage chance they've all but killed themselves. So I think that it is a difficult balance because Joe Burrow is clearly not well. The calf is not well as they try and figure that situation out, and the Bengals coaching staff has to make a decision night on Monday Night Football on the second Monday Night Football doubleheader that we will experience as a football-consuming public. The other one, a battle of the undefeateds. Did you have the Eagles at the Bucks being a battle of the undefeateds 2 weeks in?
And you can hear both of those games right here. Westwood One on the Zone.
Look at that. Company man. Polls, please.
Stop the count. Stop the count. The polls have closed, and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Rising Show daily correspondent, Lucas Polzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. What was the biggest letdown in the Titans' loss to the Browns? Scott says going back to ground zero with the offensive line, leaving no time for anything to develop. Charles says it was Christian Fulton. Clay says it was everyone. Majority say it was offensive line.
The offensive line had a big role to play in the loss, but the failure was at multiple levels. The failure was as much on coaching as it was on personnel. The only thing that you would absolve today is the special teams.
It's crazy they didn't turn the ball over, which almost makes it worse.
It does make it worse.
Because you could at least say, well, if you avoid 3 turnovers, you can't even say that from yesterday. Which loss made you feel worse about the Titans, Saints, or Browns? 95% say Browns.
95%.
That's the correct answer.
Well, yeah, because you had the opportunity to win the Saints game, and your quarterback pooped the bed.
What's your
game? This was again a failure at every level.
What's your short-term solution for the Titans' offensive line? Goody says Radens to left tackle. Toby wants to see some quicker routes, more of the quick passing game. How about this from Andrew? Morgan Cox at center. Aaron Brewer at left guard, Radens at left tackle. Long snap the ball to give Tannehill time before the pass rush gets to him. Man needs to be as far away from the line as possible.
I agree. Make him throw an additional 20 yards down the field just to avoid being under center.
What do the Titans need more of? Coaching better or playing better? 71% say playing better.
I would say coaching better based on yesterday's results. I don't necessarily know that they have the horses to do it, but they got pantsed by your boy Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, they did, but I don't know what playbook or game plan would have overcome those O-line issues.
No. The offensive line against Myles Garrett was insurmountable.
Those are the polls.
And that's the show. Blaine and Mickey. Blaine is already here. Mickey will soon be here, and you can listen to the Blaine and Mickey show coming up next.